My name is Julie Collins, and I am the national organizer for Red, Wine, and Blue. And I am here tonight with a dynamic group called Sister District, and you'll meet them in just one moment. But I want to go over a couple of announcements that we have. And we have a new publication called 160 Ways to Change the World Without Losing Your Shit. Very, very informative, very helpful. If you are in a group or wanting to start a group, this will be something that to give you some ideas of some things to do. And that, I believe, is it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I am going to kick this over. We'll need to highlight her to Sarah Kermy, who is the new manager of Sister District, or she'll introduce herself.
Thank you, Julie. Hi, everyone. It is so great to see you all and to be here tonight. Thank you for joining us for this amazing event, When Women Lead. I am truly excited to hear this panel, so I promise I'm going to be really brief. I'm Sarah Kermy. I'm the new executive director here at Sister District. I started in January, and I am so thrilled that we are hosting this event in partnership with Red, Wine, and Blue. I know all of us at Sister District feel so lucky to have this long-standing partnership with you all. And I have to note, on a little bit of a personal note, that prior to my work at Sister District, I was at Emily's List for 9 years. And during that time, Katie and I connected while I was on a trip to Ohio. I am a Michigander. And she and I had a great coffee chat where she told me about this great idea she had to start an organization in Ohio, of course, which became Red, Wine, and Blue. And I thought it was a great idea then. And I'm really so amazed to see how you all have built the organization into what it is today. So it's really special to be here tonight. So, for those of you who are new to Sister District, our mission is to build progressive power in state legislatures. And that is our focus for many reasons. One, they, of course, have an outsized impact on every policy we care about, from voting rights to education to reproductive rights to the environment. Two, in many states, they draw the state legislative and congressional maps, and in many cases, they end up gerrymandering those maps to preempt the power of the voters. Three, we believe it is critical that we have strong leaders at this level of government making those decisions. And of course, these leaders are also the pipeline for higher office. And we have seen so many of our alumni go on to do amazing things. And four, with a tremendous return on, we see a tremendous return on investment in these races in comparison to the larger federal races. And we have a really outsized ability to play a determinative role with so many close races across the map. Sister District was started because our founders really saw a gap in organizing capacity and resources going specifically to building power at this level of government. So here at Sister District, our work is organized into two buckets. One, winning urgent elections each cycle, which we do by pairing our endorsed candidates with our tremendous volunteer teams who raise money and make phone calls for them. And two, building progressive power and infrastructure for the long term, which we do by supporting year-round organizing work in the states and raising awareness about the important work our state legislatures do. Tonight, we are going to hear from three women who can speak firsthand, not only to the important work that legislatures do, but also share their journeys into public office, the challenges they have faced, and how their lived experiences are shifting priorities and policies in their home states. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the mic over to our head of civic engagement, Raven Douglas, who is a master moderator, who is going to moderate this amazing panel. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Appreciate that. And it's great to be with all of you tonight. Really excited to be moderating such a dynamic conversation with amazing legislators. And thank you, Sarah, for setting this conversation up. And so I'm happy to dive right into it. Before we get into it, I see that everyone is putting where they're from in the chat. If you haven't done so, we'd love to know where you're from and appreciate all 154 of you being here. Also, just so you know, we have Ash and Sean from the Sister District team that are monitoring the chat. chat. So if you have any questions for our legislators or about our work, feel free to put that in the chat and we will monitor it and do our best to answer all of your questions. So as I mentioned, super excited to have this conversation. But first, want to introduce our dynamic panel that we have with you today. First, I'd like to introduce North Carolina Senate Leader Sydney Batch. She is a family law attorney, social worker, and child welfare advocate who serves as a leader of the North Carolina Senate Democratic Caucus. She's the first woman and first Black woman to hold that role. Sydney has been a longtime champion of families and has spent over 2 decades helping people navigate tough circumstances, both in her legal practice and through public service. She was first elected to the North Carolina House in 2018 and appointed to the Senate in 2021, and she has introduced over 100 bills advancing healthcare, education, environmental protections, and support for working families. Next, I'd love to introduce Assemblywoman Danielle Monroe Moreno. I'm going to get that right tonight. She represents the Nevada's Assembly District 1 since 2016 and currently serves as the Assistant Majority Leader, making history once again as the first African-American woman in Assembly leadership. She's a dedicated public servant. She chairs the Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, as well as the Nevada Black Legislative Caucus. And she holds a number of legislative and advisory roles focused on infrastructure, child welfare, energy, and workforce development. And then last, but certainly not least, would love to introduce Representative Carol Kazine. She's a representative of Pennsylvania's 159th District, and she is a passionate leader grounded in community and advocacy. She is a lifelong Chester native, wife, mother of 3, and she brings over 13 years of experience in healthcare. Her legislative priorities include $15 minimum wage, education equity, environmental justice, housing for all, and ending both gun violence and mass incarceration. So once again, thank you all for being here so much. And I know Representative Kazim, you have other obligations with your family today. So when you have to leave, just let us know. But we appreciate you for taking the time tonight. But before we get into all of the phenomenal things that you all have done in public office, I would love to just start from the beginning. And I would just love to learn more, or if you could tell the group about your journey to public office, what motivated you to run, what was your experience as a non-incumbent candidate, and was there anything that really surprised you about when you first took office? And we'll start with you, Leader Batch, first, and then we'll go to Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, and then finish with you, Representative Kazim.
Well, thank you guys for having us. It's great to see all of you. Sometimes we don't get to spend a lot of time with people that are happy to see us come, especially me as the Senate Minority Leader. So it's great to see you all. I came into politics in a non-traditional way, not surprising like most women. So I was recruited by Emily's List and another organization in North Carolina that was working to try and find progressive candidates and specifically women. I was living my best life with kiddos who were, at the time I was first asked, 1 in 3. And we all know that women have to be asked on average 7 times before they say yes. And so thank you, Sarah, for joining Sister District and all your work that you did at Emily's List for all of those years. And basically what got me there wasn't all of the things that were going on in 2017 with Trump becoming president for his first term. I knew how bad it was going to be. I was not surprised that he won. I was motivated by something very different. As a family law attorney and as a social worker, I saw a lot of the challenges that were happening at the state level that were affecting my clients disproportionately, whether it was a stay-at-home mom who had never worked and then all of a sudden husband left and upgraded for a younger model, and she had been out of the workforce for 2 decades, didn't know how she was going to make ends meet or be able to, of course, pay for her insurance because that was going to be cut off. Or a lot of the work that I do in the foster care system of disproportionately poor families and families of color whose children are removed from them in a broken system that doesn't support anyone to be able to reunify at the rate that children deserve to go home when they can be safe. And so I chose to step forward and figured out that at the end of the day, if the individuals that were serving in the legislature were not going to focus on the things that I had knowledge of and expertise, then I would step forward and run. So I ran in 2018 in one of the most competitive House races, and with Sister District's assistance and a lot of support, help, and financial resourcing, I won that race. And so I was very grateful to be involved and have been an alumna of Sister District this entire time. And so it's been a great pleasure and privilege to serve. There are very few people in North Carolina that can do it. It's a part-time legislature, as they say. Really, it isn't part-time. We're always there. We get paid $14,000 a year in a per diem. And so we lose and you're going to probably hear common themes from all of us on here is that we give up a lot but it's certainly worth it. It's hard, but it's necessary work. And so I think the most surprising part of me serving in the legislature, and specifically in my new leadership role, I'm the first woman in North Carolina to be a leader, to run a caucus and to be the leader of a caucus. And I think the most surprising was that there I have dealt with more sexism than racism. And that's the first time in my life that I've dealt with that. As a Black woman, being Black has always been the more prominent aspect of the things that I've had to face within the world and the structure of my life. But for the first time ever, becoming leader has been the hardest and the most challenging because I'm a woman. And so, as Shirley Chisholm said, and she's one of my heroes, I have a quote as soon as I won and became leader. I have a quote in my office that everyone has to see when they walk through. And it says, "Tremendous amounts of talent have been lost to our society because that talent wears a skirt." And she talked about the fact that as a woman, she has had more challenges than she did than she was as a Black person. So I'm very, very privileged, honored to serve. There are certainly challenges, but I'm happy to meet them every single day.
Thank you so much, Leader Batch. And I want to come back to that, but Assemblywoman Moreno, go ahead.
Good evening, and it's really good to see you all, and thank you so much for having me. Yes, I am Danielle Moreno, and it's obvious I need to update my bio online. I am currently the Speaker Pro Tem in the legislature, serving in my fifth session, and I also chair the Ways and Means Committee. When I decided to make the run in 2015, it was after I took a merge back in 2009, and I thought I knew everything. At that time, I was serving on the Clark County Democratic Party, thought I knew it all until I took that class and realized that it wasn't just me running, it's your entire family that runs. And at that time, my family was not ready to run. I thought about what probably most men don't think about. My marriage looked great from the outside, but was not wonderful in our household, and I knew that would become public. My oldest daughter had come out to the family, but not had come out publicly, and I knew that if I ran, her life would be on full display. My middle daughter was engaged and but not married, and had her first child, and was a single mom who was living a life that she had not planned for herself. And my youngest daughter says, "Well, Mom, you have three daughters, and of course you have to get one right, and I'm your perfect child." So in 2015, we were looking for the best candidate to replace my former assemblywoman, who was speaker and minority leader herself, and we could not find that perfect person. And my kid said, "Mom, I believe it's you." And I said, "Yeah, but if I run, here's everything we're going to put out." My oldest daughter said, "Mom, let's do this. We have been working campaigns since we were in strollers for other people. It's time for us to work for you. And let's run, and you're going to get the gay vote. And we'll just tell my story." My middle daughter said, "Every single mom will understand the wonderful mother that I have, so let's go out and tell my story." And my youngest, of course, said, "Well, you have to have one perfect child, and every family has one, so you too have one. Let's go tell my story." The whole family got involved, and it was probably the best decision I've made in my life. What surprised me was that there had been a gentleman that held this seat years prior, white gentleman, who I knew and thought of him as a friend. And he asked me if I thought that I was the best person to represent the district because I didn't look like the district. Assembly District 1 is not a Black district. It's a very multiracial, gender, age range district, religious beliefs district. And I said to him, I said, "Well, I am a Black woman who's now remarried to a Jewish man. My children are biracial. My grandchildren are multiracial. We are straight, gay, bi, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, some non-believers. I think when you look at my family and who I represent as being the mom of that family, I'm a better representation of our district than you ever were. And he was not happy with my comment, did not support me, but I beat the gentleman that he was supporting. And serving in the legislature, being the second Black woman, there was only one Black woman in the assembly when I was elected. I was elected in the year that my then roommate at the legislature, Assembly Member Miller, we were the second and third Black women to be elected, and no one could tell us apart. And I thought that was very odd that all of the white women who had blonde hair, everyone could tell them apart. And we all looked different. We were beautiful shades of brown, but different shades of brown with different hair textures and all that. And no one could tell us apart. It took going through an entire first session to convince people that I was the elected member, not the white woman working in my office. But it made me more determined to dig in, to learn the policies, learn the rules and standard operating procedures. And my second session, I was in leadership, being the first Black woman ever to be in leadership. And right now, being the Speaker Pro Tem and the Chair of Ways and Means, I am the highest ranking elected Black woman in our state. So thanks for having me. I love this job. I think that makes me a little crazy, along with all my sisters. And I could not have won my reelection and subsequent reelections without the support of Sister District and Emily's List. So thank you.
Thank you. And Representative Kazine, I know your service might be not great, but would love to hear your story. Let's see. I think you're on mute.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay.
So good evening, everyone. I'm definitely honored and pleasure to be here. I'm State Representative Carol Kazine, and I represent all the way in the state of Pennsylvania. So we are definitely our beautiful swing state, our battleground state, is what you call it. So I'm just so grateful to hear my fellow colleagues, Senator, and also Assemblywoman, just all of the great accomplishments that you both have also made. And I'm proud to see other Black women as well in elected official seats, because I know that we always talk about representation, especially as women, to really be at the table. So it's really an honor to meet you both. So I came in a little bit differently. I came in a little bit as what they call a table shaker. So I first ran when I was 29. I am currently now 33. I'm serving my second term. And I am also still currently the youngest woman serving in basically as an assemblywoman, but also in the Senate, they have no woman around my age. So I am still currently the youngest woman serving on a state level. So I came in actually, running against another Democrat. So I was not an incumbent, and I did not come in trying to fight a Republican off. So I came in because I felt as though no matter what party you're in, you need the right leadership. So I was always a humanitarian. I was always an activist. I was an organizer, and I was also a gun violence interrupter. So my job was to really diffuse violence in a lot of communities, also providing resources to families who've been affected due to gun violence or trauma. I also worked in the hospital as well, alongside with individuals that dealt with violence as well. And then I did a lot of advocacy around social justice. So whether that was around education, whether that was around discrimination, whether it was around housing or finding other policies that would work and better the community of residents for Pennsylvania, that's what I was doing. I was also fighting and advocating for women's rights, not only in Pennsylvania, but across the United States and also internationally as well. So one of my mottos before coming into office was always called combating global poverty through education. So that is something that I still stand for. And my motto now as an official is no more excuses over justice. So that's what I ran on, and I still stand on that. So I came in basically going against another Democrat, even though I am a Democrat as well, is because I felt as though the representation was not there. I am someone that no matter what party you are a part of, no matter who you are, if you're not standing for the people, if you're not doing the right thing, I will definitely let you know you're wrong, because I also expect the same accountability as well. So lying down one day, I was, sitting watching TV, and I was listening to the elected officials in my state. and others across different states. And I heard how they were, you know, recognizing certain individuals. And I realized that in my community, they were not recognizing a lot of them. The area that I serve predominantly is very diverse, but I have a lot of low income individuals that might be Caucasian and also individuals that are Black. And then I have some that are also very, very, very wealthy. But majority of my district is blue collar. So a lot of us are more working families. So those individuals, to me, I felt were being ignored. And that is usually the backbone and the bread of the community and the economy that we live in right now. So for me, I just came in more so saying, hey, I wanted to work with my predecessor at the time, and he kind of was like not still hearing it. And then I boldly told him that if you don't get it together, I am going to run against you. He laughed at me. He said, okay, sure, whatever. And I did it. I gave him a year and I ran against him. And he also didn't think I could win because I am the first woman to also serve in my seat and the first Black woman as well. So he didn't think I could get it. And I was young and I never ran for public office before. But one thing I did have that he did not know was I had the people. And I was always good and strong on the ground. And I had organizing and activism in me. A lot of individuals that do serve currently in the state of Pennsylvania, a lot of them don't really come from activism or humanitarian, or they don't really come as community organizers. So it was definitely a shift, but it was also a blessing because there's a lot of things that I think about right now currently that's a little bit outside of the box and the norm for those that have been there for 10 years, 12 years and more. So I come in a little bit more on the ground grassroots level where I'm able to provide more strategies and solutions that can help them around their policies. And PA, we're very, not even a little, we're very backdated. So having an individual like myself, and I think one other person was a community organizer, she was also a teacher, us coming in and just being able to provide these kind of on the ground solutions and being able to come in with real life situations that I know I've experienced as well. That's what really helps me progress, but also the whole Commonwealth of Pennsylvania progress as well. So I'm just really grateful and glad to be where I am. I picked up very quickly. I've had representatives say it took them 3 years, 5 years. I kind of picked up in a few months. I've introduced over 100 bills as well. I've already had some passed and signed into law. And that happened in my first term. So I'm just really grateful to where we are. We are currently in a majority in the House, but we are in a minority in the Senate. So we are a divided legislator in Pennsylvania. And I do plan on trying to flip some of those Senate seats, even though I'm in the House, because we got to get some more stuff done. So thank you again for having me. But that's who I am. I'm a mom, organizer, and a grassroots person, and I love still being on the ground. And I'm still back in healthcare, so I'm still helping on the healthcare side because it's been a challenge in Pennsylvania. So I'm back helping our seniors the best way I can while being a full-time legislator. So we don't do part-time in PA. We are full-time in PA. So I'm a full-time legislator, but I am helping as much as I can with the seniors in the healthcare field as much as I can. And thank you again for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. I just want to hard stop and just say thank you to each of you, because like you all are trailblazers in your own way, but also the voice and the expertise and the knowledge that you bring in this space, in this current moment in time, in this current moment in political history is so valuable. And so you all know, as you will have talked about, we'll talk about, right? Like being a state legislator is not easy. And that is one of the big things the Sister District is here to support state legislators in their candidacy, but also as legislators. And so I talk to you and I engage with you, and you also show up every day and are just incredibly brilliant and kind and funny. And so I just did want to take a moment just to say thank you as we, before we continue this conversation. But Leader Batch, this was a question that I had later in the conversation, but since you brought it up, I would love to just bring it up now. And you mentioned, right, you know, the adversity that you've experienced being a woman and the legislator. And so I'm very curious from your experience, like, what are some of the persistent challenges you've had being a state legislator? And then even as a legislator and a candidate, what has been the biggest difference in support, or what is some support that you wish you had? Would love to hear from you, Leader Batch, and then if any of you other legislators have anything, would love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, I'd start off by saying that the double standard is very obvious. I remember my very first meeting, we had this, you know, as a freshman legislator, I was in the House. We were supposed to meet with our Republican colleagues, and at dinner, the very first person that I met was one of my Republican colleagues. He could have been a Democratic colleague. It would not have changed any difference. The real point is that he was a man. And he looked at me and said, do you have kids? I said, yes, they're 5 and 7. He goes, they must be suffering with you not being home. And I said, well, I'm married well, and I have a really supportive husband, so I think they're all right. And he says, well, my wife stayed at home with our kids. I worked all the time. I said, oh, so that's why they were so successful. And it went over his head, right? Like he did not even realize the slight that I was making regarding his absenteeism as a father. And it's the things that you will hear all of the time. I guarantee you that my colleagues on this call, there's not one time that we have not been at an event that says, oh, well, who's watching your kids? Or, oh, well, how can you do this? And are you really sacrificing? Is this really worth the sacrifice? There is not a time that any of the men that I serve with are asked who's taking care of their kids or who's going to take care of their elderly and aging parents. And it's aggravating as all get out, but it is something that is definitely not unique to politics. I think many of us deal with that. What I would tell you with regards to the challenges in the space of running as a candidate, especially in competitive races, and subsequently while serving, because it's different, and the representative knows this, right? When we're serving, you're still running, and in North Carolina, we run every 2 years. And when it's in a candidate, we didn't even know how easy we had it. When we didn't even have the other job, we could just do that. Now we have to do all of it at the same time. And unfortunately, as Black women, we are the last, we get the least amount of resources. So the funding stratus basically is white men, Black women, Black men, white women, Black women, and other women of color. And so I have to work oftentimes 3 to 4 times harder. Often, if we were being honest, it's probably 10 times harder to raise the same amount of money that many of my colleagues raise. And we're still in very competitive districts and have to put that same work in while we have a lot of the other responsibilities that require us to work. And so we are technically a part-time legislature, but we're in session all the time. So I still have to manage my law practice as a partner there, earn my keep, raise my kids, and legislate at the same time. And the most frustrating part is that we are often elevated in a lot of positions. And I think of it as we're show ponies. Everybody likes to hear from us. We're exciting. We have great stories. But then at the end of the day, when you leave that event, we're the ones who have the least amount of money, right? And Black women in particular, who are really the only solid base of the Democratic Party, get the least amount of support. So that's one of the most frustrating parts of where we are in this space in this time. We'll still do the work. We'll still put in all the energy. We'll have to do 10 times harder and work 10 times harder to get the same amount that some of our other colleagues get. But it definitely is a grind, and it's something that is unfortunate within our democratic and political spaces.
Assemblywoman, did you have anything to add?
I'd say ditto to everything that was said. You know, when you put your name on the ballot to run for office and you start the fundraising, if you're smart, you've looked through the contributions and expense reports of previous people who've held the seat and other legislators. So you know who to call and ask for money, but you also know how much money was given to those other members. And when your checks start coming in, you often see they may be, you know, half the amount, a third of the amount, sometimes even smaller. But we too here in Nevada are a part-time legislature. We're only in session for 120 days every other year, but you are elected to serve for that 2-year period. So you are working the entire time. When they said it was a part-time job, they lied to me. It's a full-time job because your constituents, they expect you and deserve to expect you to be there for them. And it's 24/7. It's not a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job. It's Monday through Sunday, and you start all over again the next week. And in Nevada, it's not compensated as it is in some other states. We are only paid for the first 60 days that we're in session. The last 60 days, we receive a per diem, whatever the government per diem is for that day of work. And during the interim, you're attending committee meetings, you're attending city council meetings, you're working with your county commissioners, with your federal delegation. You know, I'm blessed that we have 2 Democratic senators, 3 Democratic congressional members that I'm able to work closely with here in our state. But it is a full-time job. And as a legislator, you're only making just over $9,000 for that 2 years. And a lot of people think we make tons of money. So 2 years ago, I made the decision to run for a state party chair because I felt my party could be doing more and better. So I was elected and serving my second term as the Nevada State Democratic Party chair. And in doing that, wanted to bring civility back to politics, but also wanted to highlight the lower part of the ticket. Oftentimes your state parties only focus on the top of the ticket in those congressional races. And we leave out the school board races, the city council races, and sometimes legislative races. So I made a promise to folks throughout the state, if you put your name on the ballot, your party would be there for you. So I traveled the entire state. I leave again next Monday, going to all 17 counties, talking to voters, and not just Democratic voters, because if we continue to talk to ourselves, we'll continue getting the results that we've been getting. When you're elected to serve, as Carol said, when you're elected to serve everyone, those that voted for you, but especially those that didn't vote for you, and listening to them and being there for them, no matter what their party affiliation is. But I ask people to run for office, and especially women to run for office. So in every stop, I interact with those women, but also leave them a check where we don't raise as much money. Traditionally, Black women, I opened my own PAC and asked people to donate to my leadership PAC so I could give from my PAC to pour into other women running for office in my state. So they knew that they had a state party chair that was changing the dynamics of how we do politics in the state of Nevada. So that's hopefully growing. We are a women's majority. We have the majority in both the Assembly and the Senate, and we have the Democrat majority in the Senate and the Assembly, but with the Republican governor who finds every chance he can to veto our bills. But I would agree, the challenge starts with money. Money isn't everything, but it helps to get the word out as for marketing of who you are, and it helps you be more impactful in your community because you have those resources to do some of the work, like working with the seniors, working with our children. I was a foster kid, so foster children are near and dear to my heart. So if there's something I can do for them as a legislator, I do, but during the interim, having those extra resources helps me pour into the community a little bit more.
Thank you. And Representative Kazine, is there any persistent challenges that you've had, especially as a newer legislator? And has there been any support that's been really helpful, or more support that you wish you would have had even as a candidate or a legislator?
Yeah, as I said, when I first came in, I kind of came in being the op, is what they call. So all of my support was mainly grassroots. So it was a little difficult to get more higher end support. But I am grateful to say that the resources that I was able to receive was through like unions like SEIU, who cares about healthcare, caregivers, workers, like I said, working families. Also, I had to reach out to independent grassroots organizations. I did get the support of PSEA first round, which is not really common. So I would say I had that level of support, but there were a lot of different individuals, as the Assemblywoman Moreno said, that I did not get the support on. And even though they now support me because I am now the incumbent, that's the motto, but the level of support is not the same versus the individual that I took out. And I think for me, the challenge was still settling in, because when I came in, my seat specifically was held by a family regime for over 40 years. So I came in knocking that down. So there were a lot of people that were getting certain incentives. There were a lot of things that were happening even on the state level, even with other legislators that were allowed to kind of do anything without being called out. They were pretty much getting paid for things behind closed doors using taxpayers' money. So a lot of things kind of ruffled. So they welcomed me, but I can tell that the welcome wasn't really available. So I didn't get any, level of training. I think I heard, I don't know, Senator Batch or someone said something about training or classes, but I didn't get anything like that. It was kind of like figure it out on your own. I mean, I've had people that were like, oh, hey, I heard about you, but it was a little difficult. And I think what's also more difficult is that even though there are other women in the assembly, and there is just a few, the Senate is trying their best. They're getting there a little bit. We still have no woman of color in the Senate, but we do have few women that are there now, women that are Caucasian. So I'm grateful to know they opened that door. But it is still difficult because we are majority still men on both ends. And a lot of things that we bring to the table, there's a lot of ignorant comments. And then especially as a Black woman, I would say that I think by me being younger is a little challenge, not because I can't get along, because a lot of people I'm used to are older than me, but I think that a lot of people got used to the way this is how it is. So a lot of things that are said or done, it's not really being checked, where I kind of come in checking it. So I think sometimes my party or my leadership may say, this is how we're doing it. Let's just fall in line. And I'm kind of like, but this is why we're still this is why we're still backwards. Because we all kind of feel that, and they feel like it's because we're not really in the majority. And then the women, they kind of feel like, okay, even on our side of the party, they still feel like it's majority men. So I feel like no matter what we say, it's always still an opposition. So I think that's where my challenge come in is, how do I come in being younger and still being able to, I don't want to say fall in line, but kind of come together with individuals who have been there for 15, 20 years. And they really are, like they really go by, this is how, by the book, this is how we do it. This is how it's always been, status quo, and that's it. So like I said, me coming in, it was already a little bit like, oh, she's trying to come in. So now anytime I hear of a great candidate that's running, I do get called about, hey, I know you want to support this person. I know they have this energy you like, but you need to be supporting this incumbent. When I clearly know this incumbent never shows up to work, and I wish their residents knew they didn't, and we're giving them tax dollars and they really don't come and even speak up at all. So I think that's where the challenge comes in. I know, Representative Moreno, she stated, Speaker, excuse me, actually, she's, mentioned that she, went for chairwoman, or like state chair. And I think that's important. And I wish that more individuals, especially women, would go for seats like that, especially here. And I just wish we would change. So that's where my challenge is that we are not yet there. And a lot of women feels like, let's just fall in line. So sometimes I'm just the only one, voicing things.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. And Assemblywoman Moreno, one of the things that you mentioned is that congressional offices and races get a lot more attention than state and local races. And so some research that Sister District did last year, we've done a lot of research on the impact of down ballot roll off and what's happening. But last year we did some research really understanding why people roll off and why people don't vote all the way down the ballot. And it's very simple. People don't really know what a state legislator does, right? And who their state legislator is. It's a basic kind of civic education problem. And so I'm very curious. I know Representative Kazine, I know you probably have to go soon, but if you have a little bit of time, would love to hear from you about your role as a state legislator and what your day-to-day looks like, especially considering that you are a full-time legislator. And then we'll shift to Leader Batch and the Assemblywoman to talk more about your roles as leaders in your chamber and caucus. But Representative Kazine, if you're there and you're able to talk, would love to kind of know what your day-to-day is, especially as a full-time legislator.
Sure. My day. I don't even know where to begin. So let's give it session day. Session day, I'm on the highway because I am a mom of younger kids. I do go back and forth every day, even though it is a 2.5 hour ride for me. I pretty much just sacrifice and take that chance because we're moms. We do what we got to do. So I do go back and forth just to make sure my kids know that I'm still available. Most of my colleagues do stay or have an apartment. So I'm pretty much on a highway. I'm getting there early in the morning. We do serve on committees. I have 5. So I serve on the education committee, local government committee, which deals with every government level of things. I also serve on game and fisheries, so that has to deal with like fish and boat, hunting, things like that, sportsmanship. I also serve on, I think I said education. I also serve on children and youth committee as well, and I serve on one more, and I don't. It's not. Oh, environmental. So depending on what that looks like as far as the committee, it might be a public hearing that we're hosting. We might end up having voting meeting. So I would have to basically attend all of my committee meetings. If it happens around the same time, then I have to put in a vote by designation. So I have to attend there, hear what we're voting on, talk about it, and then of course put my vote in. Or if it's a hearing or an informational session, we're pretty much gathering as a committee to talk about something that can potentially become a bill or a law or something that is an issue that other organizations want to bring forth. From there, we then are going on a House floor, whether it's at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, depending if it's a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Some days we can be there Thursday during budget. To be honest with you, we have not passed the budget on June 30th, which is Pennsylvania's deadline. We are still in budget. We cannot come to an agreement yet, especially everything that's happening on the federal. We're a little bit tight with funds. So now we're trying to figure out what should come first, and we're kind of playing that game. So once we do that, as far as session, we usually break out, might have to go back to committees. I'm also having a lot of meetings while I'm in session. So although we're on the House floor, we get a lot of breaks where we have meetings. I also have caucus meetings as well. That's where we kind of pretty much, the two legislators, they know we kind of come together within our party to talk about maybe bills or so forth that's about to run on the floor. And then from there, we're back on the floor. And then from there, depending what time we're done, I could be done at 11 p.m. I might be done at 9 p.m., 7 p.m., 6 p.m., and then I'm pretty much heading back on the road. So it's very unpredictable at what time we're done completely when we're gavelled out, because it might depend on what we're actually voting on, how long it takes for us, if something shifts in the Senate where they might want to change something up or put an amendment to something, and anything in concurrence. So that's kind of what that looks like when I'm in session. When I'm not in session, I'm pretty much still going into my office. I do have three, and I'm pretty much still going in there to one, see what's going on with the staff, make sure if there's any constituents that still need support. My staff kind of got on me because I was doing a lot of constituent services as well. So they felt like that's what they're there for. They did not like it because they felt like a lot of people would come in there asking for me and they weren't trying to go to them. So I learned to step back. But I will still go in there, try to, work on some things, have a lot of meetings as well in my office, meet with constituents, organizations, maybe even leadership, just depending on what it is. And then I'm also out in the community. So I do still door knock. Even as a legislator, we call it legislative door knocking. So I am still door knocking on residents' door to let them know all the services and resources that my office has to offer. And just so they can also meet me in person. So for people that probably don't know me by face, especially the seniors that probably didn't get a chance to come to town hall meetings or face-to-face community meet and greets with me, I still try to come by, knock on the door. And those doors that I knocked on, there are some legislators that only knock on their party. I knock on everybody's door. So that's my way of trying to get through to everyone, to figure out what are the needs, hear what they're talking about. Some people want to talk to you. Some people just take my pamphlets. It's called Working for You, and it lists everything we can do on a state level for them. So outside of the door knocking, outside of that, I'm also going to events. We have a lot and tons of events in our district and outside of our district that we have to attend to kind of keep engagement with organizations or individuals per se, and even schools. So even as a legislator, I have to kind of stay on top of the schools. That's what we're kind of in charge of, our own local schools. So I have about 4 in my district because I have 7 municipalities that I'm in charge of within my district. So I usually meet with a lot of the superintendents, depending if they, CFO, and I'm always kind of keeping up on what's going on with the school districts and so forth. So that's what my day-to-day looks like. And again, it could be meeting with hospitals and everything like that. But now, just to end it off, because I know we have other people that have to speak and I have to go, we now no longer have a hospital system in my district. The only one that was there, that was a long-lasting one. Unfortunately, a privatized company came in and bought it out. It was a nonprofit hospital at first, and it hasn't even lasted up to 5 years. And they basically filed for bankruptcy, took the money, ran. I pretty much gave a lot of funding, even out of my own budget, to make payroll for them, for a lot of the nurses. So there's thousands of people now without a job. And what's more unfortunate is we have no other health system besides a couple miles down from my area. So my district specifically is a predominant health desert. So right now, on top of what I have to do, I'm currently working with Johns Hopkins, Penn Medicine, Nemours DuPont, and other hospitals to try to get them to buy out certain real estate properties in my district to provide outpatient services, because now we have no medical services. So people have to travel far to get it. And one of the things with seniors and low income families, what is their biggest challenge is transportation. So now I'm trying to work with even non-medical ambulatory services to see how they can be able to provide transportation services, and then out of network insurances. Now that we have no hospital who took a lot of Medicaid and Medicare, now we have other systems that are not going to take it, or if they do, they have to pay a lot of money, which they may not have the finance to do so. So that's part of my challenge, and also what I'm doing daily to really kind of bring in healthcare, because that's really that's like a no-brainer. Like I need healthcare in my district. So we have none, not even throughout my county. So that's what my day-to-day looks like, trying to scream at healthcare systems to come in while doing my legislative duties, while also writing bills, drafting legislations, trying to get it on the floor, and then also serving on my committees. And I'm also now the chair of the the Youth and Public Safety Caucus. So I'm the chairwoman for that now. So I'm now focusing on the entire state when it comes to the children and their safety, just in general, well-being, education, mental health, and so forth. So that's pretty much what my day-to-day looks like. And it can start off at 5 a.m. and end at 12 midnight. It all depends. So thank you, Ted.
Yeah, well, thank you, Representative Kazine, for your time and your leadership and your advocacy. I know you have to go, so I really appreciate you being here. I do want to get to, you said something about federal defunding, and I want to get to that, but first, before that, Assemblywoman Moreno, would love to hear from you. First, if you could just explain what your leadership role is within your caucus, within your chamber, and then like what does your day look like? Especially in difference from other state legislators who don't have a leadership role.
Yes. So holding the title as Speaker Pro Tem, I am the speaker's replacement if for any reason the speaker can't be there, but I'm part of the leadership team that meets with the governor's staff on a weekly basis, sometimes on more than once a week, about bills that are coming through the legislature, but truly about our budget, because when we entered the legislative cycle, the governor gave the legislature his budget, and I always call it like the governor's Christmas wish list that he gives to mom and dad, and we go through it to see what we can afford. Well, his wish list was $330 million in the red. So we went into the legislative session in the red, and it was up to Ways and Means and City Senate Finance to figure out just exactly how do we balance this and fund services in our state while having a guy in the White House that's trying to take funding away from the state. So generally my day starts at 6 a.m. Getting into my office with my first meeting in my office at 6:30 before my first committee meeting at 7 a.m. and meeting with my fiscal staff every morning. But training up those that are coming behind me, because we have term limits. I'm in my 5th term. I could only do one more term in the legislature. So I have a responsibility to make sure that there's people on Ways and Means that are ready to step into my shoes and hopefully do even a better job than I'm doing in this role. But it starts with that. But it's also, I'm the treasurer of the caucus. So making sure the caucus financial structure stays in place while we're in session. But I also feel that as Speaker Pro Tem, I'm that person that people go to when things aren't going well in their personal lives with their bills. And as Ways and Means Chair, can we fund their bills? And this was a session where I had to break a lot of hearts. But I truly believe you're supposed to lead by example. So I knew what my bills were. I had 12 bills, but I knew that we could not afford all of our bills, especially going in $330 million in the hole, and hearing what might happen in DC with our state budget. The first 4 bills that I put into our Ways and Means graveyard were my own bills, because people needed to know that I'm willing as a leader to sacrifice my bills to help make sure that your bills, or at least some of your bills, are able to make it through. So that was that's the biggest part of my job. I'm the counselor I'm the scorekeeper, and I generally don't leave the building before 10 o'clock at night. My attaché, which in the legislature, you have a staff member that's assigned to you only through session, but the rest of your term, you don't have a staff member. So unless you've raised enough money to pay someone to help you out with constituent services, it's volunteers that are helping you. But my staff member, he was kind of frustrated. There were people coming in wanting a meeting and thought, well, she has the time. She has the time. So he started keeping track of all of the meetings that we had. So every Monday he would update and had it on his desk, how many meetings we had had. And by the end of session, we were just under 800 meetings. I did 15-minute meeting blocks, in addition to the 3 committees that I serve on and the one that I chair. But it's making sure we stay on track, that people's bills aren't lost. And I, in my leadership role, oftentimes am the one that have to tell people that their bills aren't going to make it and why it's not going to make it. Or if it's just a financial issue, how do we work around the money to make sure that the policy gets passed and maybe come back and be able to fund that policy in a future biennium when the legislature meets. Sometimes the hardest part is just getting the policy passed. But then coming home while in session to have communications with our constituents, to let them know what we're actually doing, because a lot of people don't know what a state legislator does. So you make laws, what does that mean? So coming home, working with our congressional delegation and doing joint town halls with them, but also working with our city council members and our county commissioners and our school board members to hold community conversations, so that if 10 people show up, 10 people can go back out in the community and tell what they've learned. And it's putting together the newsletter and sending the newsletter out and letting folks know through that means of communications what we're doing. But also setting up a text system so that a lot of folks may not read the newsletter, they may not show up at a town hall, but they'll quickly read a text and letting them know when a bill is coming up. And if you care about housing, oh, I have a supportive housing bill that you might be interested in. Here's the hearing date. But it's also communicating with our high schoolers, making sure that they know what's going on and empowering them by allowing them to put forth a bill draft every year. And then I bring them up to Carson City to testify on their own bill, present their own bill, to get them in that process that hopefully when you talk about civic engagement, we get them involved early enough that they stay involved and engaged as we move on. But my job as a speaker pro tem and chair of Ways and Means is showing up by 6 a.m. and sometimes not leaving the building until midnight and putting out a lot of fires and making sure the budget is balanced, because we cannot end a session without having a balanced budget.
Thank you. And I know time is moving so fast. There's one other question I do want to get to before to end out this conversation. But Leader Batch would love to know what the day in the life of Sydney Batch looks like.
Very similar to my colleagues, and mine starts with an early drop off at 7 o'clock for my kids to go to school. But it's the best hour of my life, because after I drop them off, no one wants to be up and talk to me between 7 and 8:30. So I get a lot of work done. With that being said, I have to run caucus meetings. I do strategy sessions with regards to the amendments and the floor strategy. I truly believe that you execute a plan with fidelity. And so every single day I have to plan out which bills we're going to speak on, who's going to speak on them, what amendments we're going to run, who's going to talk, and in what order, and stay on top of that with a group of my caucus members that work with me and are interested in that type of work. Obviously talking to the Republicans, and the only difference, other than what everybody else has already said, is that because we are in a superminority in the Senate, a lot of what I do is I stand, we do a lot of press gaggles, and I use our bully pulpit to be very loud. And I say, if we're going to lose, we're going to lose loudly. And it's been very frustrating and to the Republicans, but I feel as if you're frustrated and I'm renting space in your head for free, I'm doing something right. And so every day I wake up trying to figure out how to take their joy. So that's That's where we are in a state where you can't really control the narrative and we can control the narrative. We can't control the outcome because they can override our governor, but at least in our chamber. But that doesn't mean that we don't stand up and fight every single day. So that's for the most part what I do.
Absolutely. As a native Texan, I feel that to my core. So thank you for doing that. And I just wanted to end this conversation. There are like 5 other things I want to ask. We're clearly out of time. But I love to end all of our panels and conversations on the same note. And my question to all of you is, what is bringing you joy right now? Whether it's something, it could be completely non-political related. It could be something you're reading, a vacation you're looking forward to. But it also could be totally, political related as well. But just to end the conversation is, if there's anything that's bringing you joy right now, I would love to hear about it.
So, people get joy very different ways. We were just coming back from a vacation with our kids and my husband. I said, "What are you doing?" We were coming back from this excursion on a bus, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm watching Love Island." And he said, "Well, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm listening to Malcolm X's last speech before he was assassinated." We get joy very different ways. I think that we are at a time right now where we need another revolution, and and we need a revolution in our country. People have been sleepwalking through life because it's easier than having to deal with the pain of what this country looks like and is becoming. And so I've been spending a lot of my time, strangely enough, getting joy in ways of reading a bunch of books about history and what other social movements have done in the past, and how we can, of course, borrow from our history and use that in the moment that we're in. And so I know that seems odd that I would just listen to that speech on vacation, but I really am just reading a ton of history books to try and use that as motivation moving forward, because the time in which we can be apoplectic is over. People need to walk it off, and we need to fight for the democracy that we all want to live in and that we deserve. So that's what's strangely bringing me joy.
Yeah, no, Love Island, Malcolm X, you need a nice balance.
Yeah.
I totally get you. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, what about you?
So just being home after being up in Carson City for almost 160 days, it's nice to be home. But coming home and hearing from constituents about where they feel I should be next. And I left this legislative session feeling Carson City wasn't my work there was done, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. And I had some options. I considered running for lieutenant governor, for the treasurer of our state, taking my experience as Ways and Means chair. But where I feel that God is leading me and what's giving me joy and so much excitement, I'm so excited to do, is I'll be running for mayor of my city in 26. So working on that campaign and building that team has like re-energized me and my whole team. So that is bringing me joy. And then I've never seen Love Island, but I've gotten hooked on Ozark, and I think I'm in the last season of it. And I don't
You
know.
like dark stuff like me. I'm like, my husband watches Love Island. I was like, I would murder myself if I
Yes.
had to
Well, my
watch
career was in law enforcement, so yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but that's what's bringing me joy now, building that team up so I can bring everything that I've learned at the state legislature back home to my city to make sure that this city is functioning in the way that it should, because every city in the state has to be in a great position for us to have a strong state. So
Awesome. Well, huge congratulations. Thank you both, and Representative Kazine. I saw that she had to go, for joining today. We would love to have all of you a part of our sister district community. If you go to sisterdistrict.com/volunteer, you will see all the information about how you can be involved with us. Thank you again to our phenomenal leaders and legislators for being here tonight, and I hope everyone has a great night.